Hey guys, it's David. Real quick before we get into today's story, I just want to remind everybody that these stories are written by AI and that I do not own them or claim to have created them. I use ChatGPT to write these stories so that way I can tell y'all stories without having to worry about copyright infringement. But with that, if you do enjoy today's story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video so I know which stories y'all like so I can do more of what y'all enjoy. If you have any recommendations or requests, you can comment them down below and I'll try to get to as many as I can. And with that, I hope you enjoy today's story. A Lesson in Fear. In the dusky hills of ancient Greece, the cicadas sang a quiet, ceaseless song, their rhythm lost under the clang of shields and swords. Leandros stared over the field, his gaze hardened, his mind steeled. The soldiers of Athens stood beside him, each man a wall of bronze and sinew, breathing in the thick air of impending battle. To his right was Dymas, his friend since boyhood, now a brother in bloodshed. They had fought side by side for years, cutting through men like wheat, sharing glances that needed no words, a silent understanding that only those who had seen death could know. But today, Dymas's face was taut, a flicker of something in his eyes, a shadow of hesitation. "Are you ready, Dymas?" Leandros asked, gripping his sword, the weight familiar. Dymas chuckled, but the sound was thin. "Is anyone ever ready to face Hades?" Leandros snorted. "I thought you feared nothing." Dymas met his gaze, eyes flickering with something deeper than fear, a softness. "It's not for me that I fear, old friend. I fear for my brother, my wife, if I don't make it back." Leandros looked away, his jaw clenched. For so long he treated fear as a poison, something to be crushed. But today, on the eve of war, he could feel it too. A bitter edge beneath his confidence. He wouldn't admit it, not yet, but perhaps the oracle had been right. Fear was a weapon of its own. As the morning dawned, a blood-red sun crept over the horizon, casting a haunting light over the battlefield. The Spartans stood across from them, formidable in their silence, each man a pillar of iron discipline. At the head of their phalanx was Nicandros, a mountain of a man whose reputation as an undefeated warrior had haunted Leandros' nights. This would be the battle that forged one of them into legend, and the other into dust. With a roar, the two armies clashed, the sound of metal on metal, a symphony of chaos. Leandros threw himself forward, his shield locked with the men beside him, his sword lashing out with ruthless precision. His blade bit into flesh, a scream tearing through the air as the first Spartan fell. Blood sprayed, slickening the ground beneath their feet. He fought like a storm, his mind empty of all but instinct, but amid the clash he saw Dymas. A whirl of movement as he fought off two Spartans. His spear pierced one man's throat, yet another Spartan closed in from behind. Leandros lunged his sword, slicing through the man's back, feeling the jolt as it struck bone. The Spartan fell with a strangled gasp, his eyes wide in the terror as his life drained away. Dymas shot him a grateful look, but Leandros could see the horror etched in his friend's face, the weight of each life taken, each death endured. Nearby, a young soldier from their ranks stumbled, blood gushing from his side. It was Ariston, barely more than a boy. Leandros surged toward him, hacking through Spartans with almost feral rage to reach the young man. Ariston's breaths were shallow, his eyes glassy with pain. "Hold on, Ariston," Leandros whispered, gripping his shoulder. But as he looked into the boy's eyes, he saw terror, a fear so raw that it made his own heart ache. "I don't want to die," Ariston gasped, his fingers digging into Leandros' arm. Leandros pressed a hand to the boy's wound, but he could feel the life slipping away, a cold finality that no words could halt. Ariston's body grew still, his grip loosening as his spirit faded into the dark. For a moment, Leandros could not move. Around him the battle raged, yet he knelt beside Ariston, feeling the weight of that final breath, the horror of knowing he'd watched another life slip away. "Leandros!" Dimas called, dragging him back to the present. He rose, feeling a new resolve, a dark fire that burned with fury and fear alike. Each death fueled his rage, each fallen comrade a reminder that survival came with a price. They pushed forward, carving a bloody path through the Spartans. Leandros' blade sank into flesh after flesh, each kill a brutal symphony of steel and screams. The dead littered the ground, their bodies seeping into the earth, mingling with the tears and sweat of the living. But it was Nicandros he sought, the Spartan leader, the symbol of all that he must conquer. He spotted him amid the chaos, his armor drenched in blood, his eyes as cold as iron. With a roar, Leandros charged, his sword raised high. Their blades clashed with a force that echoed over the field, the strength of two titans locked in a deadly dance. They fought with a ferocity that defied reason, each strike driven by hatred, by the fear of defeat. Leandros' sword stuck Nicandros' shield, shattering wood and bone alike. Nicandros' spear grazed Leandros' arm, a white-hot slice of pain that only fueled his fury. Finally, with a brutal swing, Leandros' sword found its mark, cutting deep into Nicandros' side. The Spartan staggered, blood pouring from the wound. He dropped to his knees, his gaze meeting Leandros'. There was no hatred in his eyes, only a quiet acceptance, a fear that was neither cowardice nor weakness, but a recognition of death's inevitability. "Remember this, Athenian," Nicandros murmured, his voice barely a whisper. "Fear is not a curse. It is what makes us human." With that, he fell, his life spilling into the earth. Leandros stood over him, the weight of his words sinking in. As the battle quieted, the surviving men gathered around, their faces grim, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had encountered. Leandros looked at them, seeing the scars of fear in each face, the memories of comrades lost. They were bound not just by blood, but the shared terror of survival. Dimas approached, his face weary, his arm bloodied. He clapped a hand on Leandros' shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of all they'd endured. They didn't need words. Their bond was forged in the fires of fear, a strength that went beyond bravery. In that moment, Leandros understood the truth that Nicandros had offered with his dying breath. Fear was not his enemy. It was the price of life, the fire that made them human. As they left the battlefield, Leandros felt the weight of the dead upon his shoulders. But he no longer ran from it. Fear was a part of him now, a shadow that followed with every step, a reminder of the lives taken and those he had left to protect. In the end, he knew he was no god, no invincible hero. He was simply a man, a warrior who had faced death and learned to fear it. And it was that fear, that acceptance of morality, that would make him the most formidable warrior the world had ever known. Hey guys, it's David. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you liked today's story. If you did, again, let me know by subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It really helps me out. And with that, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.